part of the Another Realm Media Network. Coming up in this episode.
Exactly, and perfectly stated. I mean, really, I tell people the unknown is actually the place where all of the magic is created. That is where your creation, manifestation powers lie. Because in the unknown, there are no variables from the past, for instance, that are informing anything. And there's nothing from the future informing anything. It's like a blank slate. And just like in meditation, a deep meditation, when you go into a place and maybe you can't clear all your thoughts out of your mind, but maybe you're focused on one thing for even a split second, there's this expansion of your consciousness, and it's like a dry sponge thrown into the ocean. Everything that you need comes in all at once. And that's, I think, where inspiration comes in. That's where creativity comes in, healing, motivation. So I try to tell people, I know going into that dark abyss is scary because you have been programmed since birth to be afraid of anything that you don't recognize or that is like you.
Welcome to this episode of Mysterial Experiences, where we delve into the heart of mystery and the ethereal. Today we invite you on a voyage through shadowed realms of the unexplained. From spectral whispers to cosmic enigmas. Join us as we explore tales and phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality, in a quest to uncover truths hidden in the fabric of the extraordinary. Prepare for a journey into the unknown, where each revelation is a step closer to unraveling the mysterial. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Mysterial Experiences. Today's episode, we have the great Debz Shakti. Debz has been a fantastic friend ever since I first connected with her doing an episode for The Convergence Enigma with Josh and Stefan. Anyways, this episode is fantastic. We get to talking about a lot of Deb's experiences, but we also talk a lot about what it means to have consciousness, time, how to heal, etc. So I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Also a reminder that if you have had experiences that you would like for me to read on the show, or if you would like to come on the show and discuss your experiences, please send me an email at joshrutledge@mysterialexperiences.com. Let's go ahead and get into it. Discover the magic with Lemurian Books. Our subscription boxes are your portal to mystical realms, offering a mind-opening book of the month, along with a tarot or oracle deck delivered every month or every quarter. Plus, explore Pagan Pages, a special book dedicated to pagan paths. More enchanting discoveries coming soon. Unlock the secrets of the mystic. Visit lemurianbooks.com. That's LEMURIAN books.com. Use code MYSTERIAL for 25% off your first order. Begin your mystical exploration today. Thank you so much for sticking around after the break. We've got with us today Debz Shakti, which Debz is, number one, a great friend. I really appreciate everything, the leadership, the guidance that she gives me all the time. But also, she's a professional quantum hypnotherapist. You're an open channel, and you're offering services, PSI services, energy alchemy, ET contact, paranormal experience counseling. But so I guess you could really sum it up as you're a healer.
Oops, sorry.
That's
of course,
okay.
the dogs are going to start barking right now.
As soon as it...
Yeah, to just to put it all together, I don't call myself a healer, but I do call myself a person who assists others in healing and in growth. So,
Well, it's I think that it's like you said, it's one thing to call yourself a healer, but you're still doing healing activities. I think I was talking before that we started recording that I'm listening to a Jose Silva book called Mind Control, and he talks about some of the people who had taken his course coming up to him and saying, well, your course healed me. And he would, and people said he would always just kind of like, he would smile, but then he would say, I didn't heal you, you healed
You
yourself.
healed yourself. Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, even, I'm a Reiki practitioner, and even when I give people Reiki, the key to Reiki working is the belief that it works. And so it's really not
Yeah.
so much that I'm healing you with Reiki or that Reiki is healing you, is that you believe that the energy you are receiving is healing you. That belief is what is actually healing you.
Yeah. The belief that you're actually able to draw in
Yeah.
that healing energy and utilize it to the best of the greatest good. That's it. That's the whole power. I try very hard. I've always, I've been a yoga teacher for over 50 years even. At the end of all my classes, workshops, at the end of all of my sessions, I try to remind myself to thank each person for being my teacher and also to congratulate them for doing such good work, because profound things happen every single minute if you pay attention. And I'm in awe of the power of the soul. I really am.
I mean, it's yes, all of that and so much more. It's really for me, when I realized that there was no um, break or disconnect between me and the physical here and now and my spirit that exists in a higher plane of existence, that there is no break there. And so at any point in time, I have access to everything that the rest of me has access to. And all I have to do is pull upon that and draw upon that to do the things that I want and need to do in this physical space.
Yeah.
But I also want to make sure that I let people know, if you don't know. So I first heard about Debz via the documentary about John Yost and his experience, the documentary called Alien Abduction Answers. And Debz, you helped him do a quantum hypnosis in that documentary where he uncovered aspects of his experience that he had, his brain had kind of hidden away from him
Oh, yeah.
to protect him or whatever the case may be. But you helped him go through the process of recovering those things and also putting context around them.
Yeah. Yeah. It not only did we retrieve hidden or repressed memories, but we also, and this is what I love about quantum hypnosis, is he was actually able to clearly see and experience the memories he did have, which he thought were very clear, but they were completely, shall I say, overlaid by what I think is a protective memory, a buffer, until he was ready to be able to handle it. But once he did, and once he saw all those other things and understood the context, and this happens in every session pretty much, it became kind of a clarion call for him. He was assured of his purpose. It's just like it brought everything together. It didn't just heal all of the pain and the suffering from 45 years of being in denial and lying about something that had happened, and kind of going crazy over it, but it also like supercharged him for his purpose, which he's been on ever since. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny how our brains or whatever is doing the is keeping the fog in place, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's like it wants us to fear what's on the other side of the fog, because that keeps the fog in place.
Right.
Right, because we most of us won't run towards the things that we fear.
True.
There are some that do, and I applaud their effort to do so. But for the most part, we keep that fear in place, and so it's hard for us to want to reach through the fog and find out what's on the other side. But I think that's the work that you do helps people to realize that it's safe, that you're in a safe place, and that there's no reason to fear what's on the other side of the fog. It's just going to lead to more information, and help you better understand all of yourself and not just parts of yourself.
Exactly, and perfectly stated. I mean, really, I tell people the unknown is actually the place where all of the magic is created. That is where your creation manifestation powers lie. Because in the unknown, there are no variables from the past, for instance, that are informing anything. And there's nothing from the future informing anything. It's like a blank slate. And just like in meditation, a deep meditation, when you go into a place and maybe you can't clear all your thoughts out of your mind, but maybe you're focused on one thing for even a split second, there's this expansion of your consciousness, and it's like a dry sponge thrown into the ocean. Everything that you need comes in all at once. And that's, I think, where inspiration comes in. That's where creativity comes in, healing, motivation. So I try to tell people, I know going into that dark abyss is scary because you have been programmed since birth to be afraid of anything that you don't recognize or that is like you, right?
Right.
So when you go into a completely dark space that has nothing, a vacuum, your ego tells you you will die. And that's our biggest fear, right? Mm-hmm. For most people, it's the ego's biggest fear anyway. I'm not afraid to die because I know what right. happens next.
Same.
But for most people, that is the greatest fear. And so going into that unknown space, whether it's taking a job you don't know much about, or getting to know somebody from square one that you feel like you don't have anything in common with, or taking a road untraveled before to yourself. Mm-hmm. It all brings apprehension, anxiety, fear. It brings that up. But if you can just kind of take that and tuck it into bed, give it a cookie and some milk and kiss it on the forehead and say, just rest for a minute, i.e. relax, which is what we do in quantum hypnosis and in many other healing modalities like Reiki. Once you can get a person to relax a little bit, they do become that dry sponge. Mm-hmm. And the universe, which I spell Y-O-U, universe, mm-hmm. then sends into the sponge exactly what is needed, even if you don't know what you need, right? Which is amazing. So it all comes down to trust. It comes down to mm-hmm. building trust within oneself and trust in the universe, and trusting that everything, no matter how weird or scary or even despicable it seems on the surface, all has connection and divine purpose, because we're all part of the same quantum field. Mm. And it's all made of the same energy. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only express itself in infinite different forms and functions.
Yep. Permutations.
Via its vibrational state.
Yep.
In humans, we call that our feeling states, our emotions.
What I think about, or what I thought about while you were talking about that kind of empty space that you kind of load into is, and there's a scene in The Matrix, the movie The Matrix, where I think Neo and Trinity are about to go rescue Morpheus, and they load into basically a staging area. And in that mm-hmm. staging area, they can have access to whatever they need to accomplish what they're going to accomplish in the Matrix. And so mm-hmm. I really think of that space as being that, right? I can go into that space and I get access to whatever I need, whether it's a couch for me to lay on and help analyze whatever is going on in my life, or
precisely
crayons. Like I always think about the purple crayon book, and I just get access to a crayon and I can draw whatever I need to draw, and I can create and manifest that thing so that it helps me in whatever avenue of my life that I need access to.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to spend, I could honestly spend the entire
talk
show
about that
talking
subject.
about this. But one of the purposes of the Mysterial Experiences podcast is to kind of give people an understanding, an idea that these experiences that everybody has, we have them all the time, and they are not limited to lights in the sky
Mhm.
or seeing a spirit walk past your doorway while you're working, or seeing Sasquatch or hearing Sasquatch noises or finding a footprint in your backyard. But all of these things are connected in some way.
Mhm.
I think that, we're, for a lot of people, it's still trying to figure out how they're connected and why they occur, but they're all still connected. And so those experiences are important to each one of us in a different way. But I think it's worth sharing. And that's what the purpose of the podcast is to share those experiences that we all have.
Mhm.
Number one, it lets people know who's listening that they're not alone. Others are having
Oh,
experiences.
absolutely.
And number two, maybe, you who are listening have had an experience similar to myself or Debs or other people who've been on the show, and you would like to know that you're not alone. So I don't know, Debs, if you have anything that kind of pops in that's an experience that you would like to share with the listeners, would love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, this just happened to me this morning. Something that happened to me this morning just came into my head when you were talking. We tend to downplay or disregard even small things and call it coincidence, or not even label it. We just go on about our day. Because synchronicity happens millions of times a day in
Yeah.
our life, and when we notice it and actually put a pin in it, that's an intersection. And when you intersect with a synchronicity, you're actually interacting with it and activating it to go on to manifest something. So this morning, I remembered I was just sitting and having some water and vinegar, like I do when I first wake up. And I was thinking about my day and remembering, oh gosh, I ran out of my chocolate protein powder that I want to take after my gym session today. I only ordered it last night, and gosh, I'm going to have to come up with something else to eat after my gym session. Just a fleeting thought.
Right.
And this was at like 6:30 in the morning. And I had just ordered it last night. And so it was just a fleeting thought. Then I went on and started answering emails and stuff as I was, waking up. And and within a few minutes, my dog started barking, like you just heard him barking,
Yeah.
going crazy. That usually signals somebody's, on the property.
Right.
And there was an older gentleman I'd never seen holding a white bag at my door. And he looked real confused. And I'm like, "Can I help you?" And he said, this is my first day for delivering for Amazon, and I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Did I come to the right door? And I said, yes. He said, well, I have this delivery for you. Do you want to take it in person? And I said, well, sure. And so he had me sign, which they only do when you take it in person.
Right.
And I thought, what in the world is this? Took it in the house, and it was my protein powder.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, now I know they're fast, but that's never happened because it was only
Yeah.
like less than 8 hours
Right.
between, but which is still doable. But just the fact that it was kind of the first thing I thought after, congruent thing that I thought after my meditation practice that I do first thing in the morning. It was just a fleeting thing, and I let it go. But it was almost like that package was pinging me saying, hey,
Mhm.
almost there. Don't worry about it. And because I didn't really worry about it, I just thought, oh, I'll just eat something else. It was free to manifest itself right
Mhm.
there in my life in the next few minutes. It was
Wow.
fantastic.
Yeah, and it's really funny, those things that like you said, that happen, that I think we all just kind of dismiss as, well, that was interesting, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I have uh really weird times. I'll go through a drive-through. Let's say I'll go through McDonald's or something in a
Mhm.
weak moment.
Mhm.
And I'll order my sandwich, and I'll mean to say extra pickles, but I don't say it.
Uh-huh.
And then I get my sandwich, and guess what? It's got extra pickles
Extra
on
pickle.
it. So it's like, did I psychically ask for that? Did somebody else just pick up on, I don't
Mhm.
know the answer to the how or the why, but it's still just one of those things that, you know, until I started looking for them,
That's it.
You
Paying
know,
attention to.
I didn't recognize that it happened, but I mean, it's probably always been that way. That it's, you know, I'll
Yeah.
mean to say something, not say it, and then somehow it'll just happen. Um,
Yeah.
and those are the things that I think, as people, as you start to look for these things that are happening and be aware of everything that happens on a daily basis, you know, that in itself is probably something worth just thinking about, is how often do we go throughout our day not aware of what we're actually doing throughout our day. And
And
so by
ding, ding,
just
ding, there you go.
and so by just
Not being
placing the
conscious.
awareness on it, you know,
Hmm.
and not just muscle memory and auto reflex that is taking us through our day,
Yeah.
do we actually understand and retain what we're doing?
I think it all comes down to the fact that it's something that I've learned and I'm learning to master, and I try to teach other people when they want to learn it, is that if you can get yourself in a higher vibrational state than your routine, what you were just calling your daily grind
Yeah.
or whatever, if you can lift yourself up vibrationally, emotionally, in a feeling state, um, that widens the scope of your perception.
Mhm.
And when that opens up that shutter, you're able to see, perceive more, and thus cherry pick the things that you want volitionally, not just like, oh gosh, this great thing happened to me
Mhm.
today. They don't just happen, you manifest them.
Right.
That's always how it is. But we as humans tend to give away our power to something that we perceive as outside ourselves, rather than, because we've been programmed since birth to
Mhm.
believe that we are less than and that we have to rely on others. So the raising of the vibrational state out of what we were talking earlier about beta, alpha, theta, and so forth,
Mhm.
the brainwave states. Beta, that state where we're kind of just being really physical and mental and paying attention to, like, balancing the checkbook and doing the dishes and having the conversation with somebody. But if you can just get in a little bit higher state, whether that's by laughing or or doing practices like breath work or yoga or hiking or being in nature, or just thinking happy thoughts, even
Mhm.
going into deep memory where you feel happy and loving, suddenly your perceptual field isn't this big, it's this big, and you see many opportunities, and you can just cherry pick them. But you don't even have to be that volitional, like I was with the chocolate protein powder. I just thought
Right.
about it, but I was in a happy state. I had just come out of meditation. I was vibrationally high, and it's like it's quantum entanglement. Those two things, the powder and my desire for it, instantly brought them together, and there was the guy at my door. And I believe that is how we manifest anything or heal. I have people ask me all the time, because I've led some form of Skywatch, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind,
Mhm.
Human Initiated Contact, ET or Paranormal Contact, for most of my adult life. And it's just gone under different names depending on the decade, basically, what people will relate to. Where I take people out into the field, and we do some practices, raise our vibrational state, especially as a group. When you raise your vibrational state, there's
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of coherence, right? Heart coherence. And that vibrational state is very much amplified. But when I get newbies or people questioning about this, they're like, well, I want to come to your retreat, in September, but will I get my money's worth? Am I going to experience anything? Or am I just going to sit out in the cold, out in the middle of nowhere, and with a bunch of hippies chanting Om and feel like I lost my money? And I'll say, well, that's depending on you.
Mhm.
But we do things to raise our friendship with each other, our coherency, and our vibrational state. And never once in all those years have we not had
Mhm.
really incredible experiences that you can take home with you and go, I really made contact.
Well, and I think that a lot of times, at least for myself, I would go and I would preload the what I deemed a successful experience, right?
Hmm.
I would say to myself, if I see a ship within 50 yards, that's a successful experience.
Hmm.
But maybe the experience that I actually had was profound, but I was too busy looking for the ship within 50 yards.
Precisely, because we limit ourselves by
Right,
being that
right. So,
that material, that.
right. And I also think we have to ask, and this is something that I find myself asking myself quite a bit, is why do I want the experience that I want?
Yes,
What
good question.
what does it mean to me if I have that experience? Does it change how I look at the phenomena? Does it change how I look at
Hmm.
myself? Am I placing um am I saying to myself, if I go out with 30 people and we all see this thing, then I must be sane.
Yeah. Oh
Right?
yeah, there's that, of
So
course.
I think that bottom line, it's when you go out to have an experience, I think the best way to have the experience is to not go with any type of preloaded understanding of what it is going to be,
Yeah.
what it is going to mean to me, and what is going to be the outcome of having the experience. Instead, you're just there in the
Yes.
moment, ready to sorry if this is going to sound very cliche, but ready to be a vessel to
Mhm.
accept whatever it is that needs to be poured into you.
The dry sponge. That's exactly right. And the more, there's nothing wrong with setting goals. You
Mhm.
know, people know I'm a huge goal setter. I even do, even in a month or so, I'm going to be doing my annual vision board
Mhm.
workshop, which is very powerful. It's okay to set goals, but don't be so specific that you wall yourself off from all of
Mhm.
the greater experiences and manifestations that you can have. For instance, using the close encounter experience, especially when leading groups, I just ask people to clear themselves of any, lower emotional aspects if we can. And we do a lot of processes make you feel really good. People feel good when they come to these things and when they do this practice. And just keep your desire to have a revelatory experience open ended. Maybe you don't see anything in the sky, but maybe you see something over there in the forest,
Right.
or maybe
You
you
feel
feel
something.
something right here,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Or maybe you go somewhere else. And so that leads me to an experience, if you'd like for me to,
Sure.
to share one.
Yeah.
A couple of, let's see, when was it? It was 2022. Yeah, 2022. Fall of 2022. I did so many retreats that year, I can't even keep them straight. But we did a really major one up in Wisconsin with a large group of people wanting to learn how to make contact. And that's the thing. We'll try to train people so that they can go out in their own
Right.
neighborhoods with people if they like, or individually. And so we were out we always go to this very nicely open round meadow under a very dark sky because it's up by Canada. It's really,
Mm.
really remote. Very clear skies, beautiful skies. But it's surrounded by the big North Woods, deep forest. And so, we do a lot of stuff. Always have a lot of sightings in the sky and things and things on the ground, and hear sounds, smell smells. But about halfway through the evening, then we take about a half-hour break for everybody to get up, stretch legs, go to the bathroom, have a snack or
Mm.
whatever. And many times I'll take a group out into the black forest. You don't use your headlamps or anything. You just go out into the deep
Mm.
forest and walk and see if you can sense anything or have an experience. And often we do. And in fact, that weekend we did encounter what people would call Sasquatch. They've told me they like to be called Janu, but these beings. And so that was a really cool experience. But what I want to share with you and your viewers is the second night that we went out, or maybe it was the third, but it wasn't the first time when we encountered the Bigfoots. I went out with my group out into the forest, and then something told me, go out of the forest and go on the other side of the meadow and look there by yourself. And normally I don't do that because I want people to take a buddy, but it was real strong, and I follow the voices in my head. So I excused myself and went back across this large meadow, got to the periphery of the forest on the other side, super dark because we always go out under a new moon. And I saw a group of people standing there staring into the forest. And from what I could see, my night vision's pretty good, but from what I could see, it was part of my group. I could see their clothes, their hat, their stocking caps, their coats and everything. And so I walked up respectfully, because you always want to be quiet. And I just whispered to the guy that was closest to me, and I said, what's going on here? Not thinking that I just left them over there.
Yeah.
Like, probably an eighth of a mile away. And he turned to me and went like that. And so I immediately was quiet, and I just stood there for a while, and I realized, who is that? I thought it was my friend, but who was that? I didn't quite see the face. And so I was trying to sense instead of see, and try to feel them. And I couldn't feel anything. And I was, so I got a little closer into the group of people, and I tried to look, and the forms looked like my friends, and they were all staring into the forest. And I whispered to another person, I said, what are you looking at? And they all turned and looked at me, and none of them had faces. They didn't have faces, it was just black. And then I realized I smelled like kind of wet cardboard. And I got the sense that these were like cardboard cutouts of my friends placed there for some reason, but they still had some form of consciousness. And it's probably the weirdest of the weird experiences I've ever had in my life. But I wasn't afraid, but I was curious, and I thought, well, who is this and what is this? And then I realized I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear the woods creaking. I couldn't hear the wind. I couldn't hear traffic from way off. I couldn't hear the lake that's close by. It was like I was in this enclosed kind of vacuum with these beings. And I still don't know what was going on there. And I don't remember anything else other than I just kind of slowly backed away. I wasn't afraid. Again, I just thought, oh gosh, I wonder how long I've been gone. Remember this, remember this, remember this. I backed away, walked across the field. And as I got close to where our big circle was, everybody was there in the circle waiting on me and wondering where I'd been. And so I told them, and they're like, well, no, we've been over here waiting for you. We wondered where you were. Where'd you come from? So I don't know what that was. I still don't know what it means. I have inquired and inquired in meditation. I still haven't got the answer. But what I get from that is that never limit yourself to what kind of experiences you're going to have when you do such a thing. And you may get something that is so wild that it may take you a few years or lifetimes to figure out, but it's still way cooler than anything that's ever happened to me in everyday life.
The thing that I'm reminded, and I have to remind myself a lot of, is that, and this is, it takes me back a little bit to, I was raised in a Southern Baptist church and family. And there was something that always used to get kind of told to me as like the pastor or the church staff or my parents was, well, things happen in God's time. And so even though I've kind of moved away from that part of myself, I do pull occasionally from some of those anecdotal pieces of information that happen, because I do think that although we in the physical tend to think of time as very linear, there is a past, a present, and a
Oh
future.
yeah.
Outside of the physical realm, time behaves in a very different way, and in any particular moment, I have to think about how to say this. In any particular moment, it can be the past, present, future, all three, none of the above, etc. And
Mhm.
so the things that I experience as a 45-year-old person may only be beneficial to me as an 85-year-old person, or
Yes.
the things I experienced as a 45-year-old person may have influenced me as a 15-year-old person.
Exactly.
Right. And
Yeah,
so, and when and
absolutely.
it's really weird to think about time that way. But so even though the experience that I have now may make zero sense,
Yeah.
it may have helped me in the past, it may help me in the future, or it may help me in a completely different lifeline
Yeah.
that I'm not currently living or a part of.
Yeah.
Um, I had an experience once. My daughters, I've got twin girls. They're 9 and almost 9.5 now.
Wow.
But when they were babies, one of my daughters had really bad acid reflux all the time. She would feed, and she would usually vomit up
Burp up.
most of what
Yeah.
she was eating or
Oh.
had drank or whatever. And so because I'm a little bit of a lighter sleeper than my wife, she slept on in the little bassinet on my side of the bed. And one night I was asleep and something woke me and said, "Look." And I peered over into the bassinet, and she was laying there, and her eyes were open and her mouth was open, and she was choking to death.
Oh goodness.
And I grabbed her up, and I got her to breathe again, and then I went out and slept with her in the recliner in the living room with her on my chest the rest of the night. But had something not woken me up to say, "You gotta
Mm-hmm.
act," you know,
Yeah.
she may not be with us today. And so
Ooh,
it's
wow. That's
those
so
little
scary.
things, again, just at the time, I probably dismissed it as, it was just, I sensed it as a dad. But I don't think so. I think a guide, a spirit, whatever, I don't know. I can't put a name on it, but something woke me up from my sleep and called me to action to help save, my daughter's life. And so, um, the point is that that's an experience that I had then that still shapes me moving forward into my life, and probably will forever. It's something. It's like the movie Inside Out.
Yes.
Absolutely love it. But it's the emotions and everything that's kind of in the girl's head. It's, for me, it's a core memory, and so
Yes.
it's something that I draw upon in everything that I do. I can fall back on it and say, "Well, this happened. This is a
It's a
concrete thing."
touchstone for
Yeah.
you. It's something you can trust and believe in. I think what we were speaking about earlier, what you were speaking about earlier is that, about the nature of time as we know it. Uh, Quantum physics pretty much has discovered, along with ancient traditions, mystical and spiritual traditions have always been teaching this, that everything happens all at once forever in the same spot. And that here in the physical world, it's easier for us to see that in a linear kind of a timeline to be able to conceptualize it with our tiny little, operating system up here, rather than from the mainframe where we usually are accessing information. But the fact that you had that experience, sorry about that,
That's
dogs
okay.
again. The fact that you had that experience is proof. It is absolute proof to you that you can trust something when it comes to you in that feeling state. You can trust that information and you need to act on it. Why is that? You said it might have been an angel or a spirit guide or whatever. Well, here's what I personally know. You don't have to buy into this, but I just want to give this, posit to everyone. Everything is you. You are the only thing in all of creation, and everything else, everybody else, whether it's human, ET, angels, fairies, ghosts, dragons, whatever, that rock over there, that bird over there, they're all other versions of you. We are all the universe expressing itself and experiencing for itself through one special point of perspective. So who actually woke you up and said,
Yeah,
go save your daughter?
Yeah.
You did.
Right.
You did. But if it helps you to trust, or it helps you to feel more comfortable, you might have said, oh, my guardian angel, or her guardian angel woke me up, or my grandmother voice. I heard my grandmother's voice saying, go get your baby. That helps us it's kind of like training wheels for that trust, right? But really, all of this is about trusting and remembering that we are all of creation, and that we can tap into any of those versions as long as we allow ourselves to be that dry sponge. So it's about getting rid of the flotsam and jetsam of the traumas and experiences and the memories that might hold us down, or maybe even practices that are default practices, what we might call habits or addictions in our lives now, that kind of lower a vibrational state. I mean, you could sit there and eat Snickers bars, no offense to Snickers or our Mars M&M candy company, but you could sit there and eat Snickers bars all day long and really enjoy yourself, at least for a while. Then you'd probably get sick of it. And they make you feel good for a time. But what they do is they affect the physical body in such a way that it brings your vibrational state down. It kind of gums up the works, right? So that day and maybe several days after, you may not be as connected to the quantum field as you were in that moment. And so that for me is kind of the hallmark of why we do the practices, why people do spiritual practices or any sort of positivity training. It's to kind of clean out the radiator, if you will, clean out the engine so that it runs like a performance machine. And when you do that, you're easily able to access that information at will. And this is kind of some of the stuff I try to teach people.
When you think about what I was talking about earlier around putting your awareness on everything that you're doing throughout your day, as opposed to being on autopilot, I think that most people, if they were to put their awareness on, I just had a Snickers bar, and 15 minutes later, I felt like crap.
Yeah.
If they have the awareness to link the two together, they would realize that, hey, maybe next time I don't have a Snickers bar, or maybe next time I have an apple, which has just as much sugar as a Snickers bar, but it's natural and it's more directly from the earth than a Snickers bar is.
It's packaged in a way that your body can handle the sugar better too, right?
It's a different type of sugar.
Yeah.
Right. Your body handles it more.
It comes with fiber, so you're not going to get that whole bucket of sugar all at once in your bloodstream.
Your body's not going to basically shut every other function down while it tries to process.
Try to deal with it. Yeah. Oh goodness. Sorry.
Your dogs really want to be heard on this.
I know. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. That's you probably can't hear it, but my cat meows, or I don't know, purrs very loudly. He sounds like a Model T. Or the car from Flubber.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I've got going on in my background. I'm just hoping Zoom is figuring it out. So
yeah, me too. I apologize. Usually the big ones in here snoring his guts out, and people think I'm playing a drone in sessions. But I don't know what's going on out there. Probably there's a loose dog. That sounds like what it is.
A family of squirrels. Forming a circus on the back porch. So.
Oh well.
But anyways, no, I mean it's so Debz, I think we'll go ahead and kind of wrap up.
Yeah.
And so anybody who wants to watch Alien Abduction Answers, I know that it's available on Amazon Prime, because that's where I've watched it at. Yeah. But I'm not sure if it's available anywhere else.
Yeah, it's available on most streaming services. except for Netflix for some reason. I think there's the two compete, but Apple TV, iTunes, it's free on Tubi as far as I
Okay.
know. It's on YouTube. And for those people who might be overseas, each country has their own legal things. It costs a lot of money.
Right.
It is accessible in some countries, and some it's still not through like Amazon or what are those. But there is an internet broadcasting system called KGRA.
Mhm.
And somehow they have a loophole, and we're on KGRA. So you can just go look up kgra.com and look up alien abduction answers, and you can get it by paying a small fee like you do on Amazon or one of those if you're overseas, and or if you have a VPN.
Yeah, it's like,
So
or if you have
yeah,
a VPN, just
yeah,
connect to a US server and you're good to go.
and you're good to go. But
Um,
I really thank you for mentioning it, John. We actually were in the middle of filming the second of three movies when he found out he had pancreatic
mm,
cancer this year, and he's been battling it this year, and is winning the fight. Actually,
mm.
I spent a lot of my time trying to fundraise for him to
Yeah.
take his treatments, but
And he's actually out here in Arizona.
he is.
He's doing
He's
he's
in
in
Scottsdale.
Scottsdale. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't mean to diffuse that it's definitely about John's journey. But I think that you were instrumental in helping him in that journey.
Thank
You're his
you.
Obi-Wan, so to
Oh,
speak.
thank you. Well, he's mine. But I will say, everybody in that movie, other than the great Whitley Strieber, all of the experiencers in that film are all my clients.
Mm.
So all those people, it's real people like you and I telling those
Yeah.
stories. And for people who are who've had experiences, whether they're ET contact or they're paranormal things, or they've just had weird experiences they can't figure out and they feel alone and alienated. I highly recommend watching that film. It will make you feel good. Or reach out to me. I'm happy to
Yeah.
talk to you about it.
And if somebody wanted to have you perform a hypnosis for them or any of your other services, where can they go to do that?
Oh, debzshakti.com, DebzShakti.com, or any of the major social media platforms, including YouTube, under that name. It's all always under debzshakti.com. And my website has a media section that I don't know how many hundreds of videos are on there, free classes,
Mm.
interviews, and everything that will give you information for free. So there's a lot of free services available there too.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, check the description. There's a link to Deb's channel.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Debs, for being on. I will definitely have you back sometime in the future.
Oh,
I'm
I
sure we
love
could have
it.
had so many conversations today, but I think we had the one that we needed to have. And so thank you all of those who are listening in, who are watching on YouTube. And I think that I think that this has helped me. I hope that it has helped you. So goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you so much to Debs for being on the show. It's always a great conversation every single time that I sit down and talk with her, whether it be from my own personal experiences and working with her. Sorry for the cat in the background. Or if it's just talking with her about the show, the show that I do with my friend Stefan, the Convergence Enigma. Regardless, always fantastic talking to Debs, and I really appreciate her willingness to come on the show and talk with us today. As a reminder, if you have experiences that you would like to share with others, you can either come on the show or you can email them to me and I will read them on the show. I can keep you anonymous if you'd like to remain anonymous, but you can do that at Josh Rutledge at mysterialexperiences.com. Rutledge is spelled Rutledge. Thank you so much again for tuning in. Please like, share, follow, click the bell, whatever it is, the thing that you need to do on wherever you're accessing this podcast, please do so that you don't miss a new episode. We've got some great additional interviews and conversations that are coming up. The next one after this is going to be with a great friend of mine, Santosh David, talking about some experiences that he's had, as well as the things that he does regarding yoga nidra, which is a different type of meditation style that I was not previously familiar with until we connected and became friends over the last several years. But he and I have had some great experiences together, along with my friend Stefan, and it's a great conversation that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. So, again, click that follow, subscribe, bell, like, whatever the case may be. Thanks again for so much for tuning in, and I hope that you have a wonderful day, week, month, year, and that everything that you want, that you're working towards, is successful for you. Thank you again. Bye now.